Welcome to our sales conversation. Today's theme is do or die versus best efforts in selling, with a focus on why we need bold vision, bold behavior. I'm Andy Gold. To exceed the selling limit, we typically find that we need the do or die approach. So here's a first important distinction. Do or die is a maximizing approach. It's business selling, and it's distinguished from best efforts, which is setting minimum standards and is often aligned with social selling. Social selling, be my friend. Business selling, allow me to earn the right to your profitable business. It's not an or, it's an and. And what we typically need is more do or die selling. A conclusion that I've reached from selling for 40 years is, if we're going up against an entrenched competitor, if we make our best efforts approach with minimum standards, we will fail 100% of the time. Another important distinction is between interest. The prospect says they want to learn more, and urgency, which is action, a compelling reason to act now. That's what we need to give the prospect. We need to go from interest to urgency. Do or die means getting to a threshold level, a combination of total commitment to achieve the objective, preparation, extraordinary effort and intensity, creativity, bold vision, taking chances. For those of us who reasonably seek a work-life balance, to some extent we can substitute brains for brawn, but we still have to make enough effort so that our thoughtfulness is effective. Why do this? We want predictable opportunity. What kind of lead flow and customer flow do we want this year? How many? An example. Think about Snickers, an accepted brand, doing $380 million a year, according to this article. The business is replicable. It's predictable. We could build our business around it. What is your target for lead flow and new customers? And are you allowing for a black swan event, which could wipe out some of our customers? We need do or die typically to hit our budget. Now, the underpinning for do or die is the idea of the worthy cause. In addition to needing to hit our numbers, purpose is foundational here. We'll talk briefly about two purposes that drive our do or die effort: becoming a trusted advisor as a worthy cause, and being the heroic salesperson who opens the closed mind. Let's look at these briefly. These are worthy causes, key to self-respect, which drive the do or die effort. We all want to be trusted advisors. When we're doing business development, our problem is like we're in a canted playing field where the competitor is rolling the ball downfield and we have to kick upfield. So our worthy cause, becoming a trusted advisor, to level the playing field, how do we do this? One of the important methods is through wisdom-based selling. Customers typically love wisdom. The same customer who doesn't want to talk to us, I should say prospect, who doesn't want to talk to us because they're not looking, are going to be open to wisdom. So do we take a do or die approach to providing wisdom? sales heroes open a closed mind. The typical prospect has a closed mind. They don't want to hear from us. We have to open the closed mind. The prospects on a fall summit, they're looking down. We bring them to a higher summit of well-being through our bold vision. It's a worthy cause. It gives us moral certainty, all of which fuels our do or die effort. Let's apply this to a trade show. Go where the action is. We're trade show season for some folks right now. This is me at a recent trade show. Here's an example of bold vision, bold behavior. I was at this Printing United show last year, and not enough people were stopping at my booth. So I pulled them in. Not the people who were jogging, not the people who were shifting their head side to side, but the people who were walking slowly. I walked up to them and said, would you like an innovative idea that will change your life? I pulled 60 people into my booth. I closed 2 of them. At another trade show in December, the exhibitor next to me watched me do this for the whole trade show. And at the end came up to me and she said, what do you do? I closed that account just from watching me help people. And it's already paid for the trade show. So the key here is wisdom, bold vision, bold behavior. The do or die mindset makes sense when the entire business is at risk of failing or a major portion. A new salesperson has 90 days to make the cut. A tenured salesperson has lost a major customer. One of my clients was a Fortune 200 company, and Bob was not really taking the program seriously until one day, in a one-to-one, here's what he reported. I can't believe it, he said. We have had the customer for 40 years. I covered it for 10 years. I have a great relationship with the buyer. Last week, we lost the business. We didn't even get a second shot. What happened? I said. New decision maker, 2 levels up, brought in a new vendor. Do we need to wait for that to happen to start replacing existing business? So what about when times are good and this is not happening? Is there a reasonable way for us to ascend, to rise up, to do or die intensity? What else can we do besides trade shows? I gave you an idea that you might apply at a trade show. We're going to look at 3 more applications besides trade shows. Warm introductions, your pipeline review, and a battle plan to open a key account. Let's apply do or die to the idea of warm introductions in the magic moment of access. What is that? We're in conversation with somebody, they're telling us they love us. That's the magic moment of access. Maybe we got them a quote, we got them a sample, a blueprint, a delivery they were happy with. What do we do in the magic moment of access? In the book, Atomic Habits, there's a discussion of habit stacking. It's combining something with another behavior. In this case, we're doing project management. We're following up with a prospect. They just told us they love us. We could ask them for a warm introduction. It's important to ask because big fans are the superhighway for our growth. Sally's story. 15 salespeople. Sally does half of the business, believe it or not, more of a project manager, key account manager. We all have the assignment to bring in a warm introduction. 2 weeks later in a one-to-one, how'd it go, Sally? Did you get any warm introductions? She deals with a Fortune 200 company. No, I didn't. Oh, okay. How many people did you ask? Nobody. Did you know we all had the assignment to bring in a warm introduction? Yeah, I knew. So what happened? Andy, you don't understand. When I was hired 20 plus years ago, my assignment was to wait for the phone to ring. When the phone rings, I drive over to our client, find out what they need, figure out a solution, make sure we do it, and then I come back and I wait for the phone to ring. I said, Sally, that's fine, but you know what? You're blocking the superhighway. You're the only person who calls on this big account. If you don't ask for introductions, nobody will. Well, the good news is 2 weeks later, Sally had a warm introduction. So are you asking big fans for introductions in the magic moment of access? How do we do this on a do or die basis? Let's say we set for ourselves a standard. We will bring in one warm introduction a month. It's the second month. You're in a one-to-one with your boss or with a direct report, and the conversation goes like this. How did it go? Did you get any warm introductions? No, says the salesperson, but I'm going to work twice as hard in month 2. Okay. How many do they need in month 2? Well, on a do or die basis, you need 2 in month 2, 3 in month 3. If you make your best effort every month, you probably get 12 zeros, nothing every month. So your big fans are one of your strongest selling assets, and that's why we ask for warm introductions. This idea is also important to pipeline reviews. When you have access, that's coin of the realm. Let's apply the warm introduction idea to pipeline reviews. So sometimes pipeline seems stuck, stagnant, and it's hard to figure out why. Let's use the relationship grid and warm introductions to free up and move forward pipeline opportunity. We use a grading. Green, it's a great relationship. Yellow, some. Red, no relationship. Here are 3 prospects: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Now we grade our relationship with key decision makers. You'll notice that in each case here, the functional decision maker, your day-to-day contact, you have a great relationship. You're a trusted advisor. But look over here. For ABC, we have a red relationship with the CEO. In this case, if the CEO is part of the decision-making trust fund in effect, we're not going to go anywhere. So the red boxes tell the whole story. The bold behavior that's needed in a case like this very often is for the functional decision maker, where we may be great relationship trusted advisor, to introduce us to those other boxes, the red boxes. That takes bold behavior. Here's another bold behavior. You come to the end of a meeting, are you doing the fast track approach? So you come to the end of the meeting, and you say to the prospect, what were your major takeaways? And the prospect says, oh, I love your, I want to hear more about your fast turnaround time. Is it fast track or back burner? Fast track or back burner? So if you want to move your pipeline along faster and you want to do it on a do or die basis, 2 questions. What were your takeaways? Fast track or back burner? It sets up your follow-up. Here's what we need to do next. Now let's step back for a moment and put this in the context of process, the standard sales call. 3 parts. 1 to 7 sets up the serious conversation. 8 to 12 is our fact finding. 13 to 18 manage the opportunity. So key points of setting up the serious conversation: we lead with wisdom. The wisdom sets up the bold vision statement. They're more open to it. That earns the right to our fact finding, to learn the urgency and the closing conditions. When we know these things, we could do the proving, including the risk needs. And when all this is done well, we can either close the sale or get a PIK. All this is driven by bold vision, bold behavior. Let's look at PIKs. PIKs, payments in kind, is what the prospect does to show they're committed to the process. So in planning for your sales call, what are you going to ask for? A warm introduction to a prospect? How about an introduction to the boss or the CEO? Filling out a credit application. These are all examples of how you could use urgency and do or die to move a stagnant pipeline forward faster. The thought question is, are we earning the right to the next step? It takes the right mindset here. In Good to Great, Collins gives us a terrific mindset example. He calls it level 5 leadership. It's important for a company to manage itself this way, for a salesperson to have this mindset. A level 5 leader is strong and powerful and dominant and humble. Wait a second, isn't that one or the other? No, a level 5 leader is both. A good way to implement it, the window and the mirror. When things go well, look out the window, give credit to the team. When things don't go well, look in the mirror and ask, what could I have done differently? Using the mirror like this is the opposite of learned helplessness. Nothing I can do. My standard, keep on testing new ideas all the time. I try to test 3 to 5 a week. Let's apply this approach of taking ownership to a do or die battle plan. Now, everybody knows, by the way, that there's no selling between Christmas and New Year's Eve, right? Everybody knows that. Because this year I had 2 great meetings in that period. Often this is an invalid assumption. An example with respect to running, everybody knew you can't run a 4-minute mile until Roger Bannister did it. The challenge is self-limiting assumptions. What do we do, or rather, what are the things we can't do because we assume we can't do it? I don't know if you've had any self-limiting assumptions so far. Let's look at the idea of, can we drive the pace with a battle plan? We might assume there's nothing we could do to move a process forward faster. Let's look at an example of how time pacing, how we could drive it through urgency. We talked about the trade show example a little earlier. So we're at a trade show, we meet a prospect. Prospect sends us an email. I was given your name by Jane. I'd like some more information. Could we have a conversation 2:30 to 3 o'clock? Now, conversation's good, but you know what would be even better? What would be even better would be a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting. So we take bold action. We said we took the liberty of preparing an agenda. In this meeting, we want to talk about what would make the meeting a success, your most urgent needs. And by the way, could we have a Teams meeting? Sent the link. And to earn the right, we sent testimonials from well-known companies, Bank of America and Johnson & Johnson. Well, Sue writes back and says, okay, a Teams meeting is fine. After the meeting, the follow-up, Sue wants more case histories. So we send an email, and attached are the case histories. Here are the case histories you wanted. But Sue wanted more. So we created a new case history. We put together a new one that we didn't have. And then in the dog days of summer, when everybody knows nothing happens, we get an email from Sue. Could I visit your plant? She's coming from the West Coast. It's a Fortune 200 company. Even though it's the dog days of the summer when we know nothing happens. We ask, what are you going to want to see? We want to be ready for this meeting. We ask before she gets there. The plant trip went well, so they reciprocate. They invite us to visit. And then after 5 months, we finally received our first purchase order. It's going to be $1 million of business a year. Now, how did Bob the salesman time pace this process with a do or die urgency? Well, first of all, we went to the trade show. We turned a 30-minute conversation into a Teams meeting. That was really critical. We turned the focus from conventional printing only to more of our out-of-the-box capabilities where we could actually earn a profit. We created new case histories. We earned the right to the plant tour. This was the pivot point, turning a phone conversation into a Teams meeting. George Bernard Shaw said, the reasonable person adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one tries to adapt the world to himself. All progress depends on the unreasonable person. Are you being sufficiently unreasonable? Thought questions. What was the boldest action you took in the last week? Where did you go all in? Ask for a PIK. Key points. In business development, we typically need a do or die approach. Best efforts aren't enough. Do or die turns on bold ideas, bold behavior. What was your boldest behavior? Applications we looked at include at a trade show, stopping the passerbys, one idea, wisdom that will change your life, warm introductions, not only to get new opportunity, but in your pipeline review, advance through introductions, and the battle plan to open a new account with urgency, with a do or die approach. And finally, mindset, it's not over till I succeed. Do or die talks to an intensity of effort. Well, we all know Rome wasn't built in a day. Think about your takeaways, if any. In a minute, we'll have time for some questions. If you have any questions, you could write to me at this address. First, our next seminar in 311 is relationship selling with urgency. It's an and, not an or. In other words, relationship selling and urgency. Avoid the tyranny of the or. Okay, time for some questions now. If you want some information about do or die for your business, a sales culture to support the heroic salesperson, my first book, Innovate Now, here's where you could write. All right, let's listen, see what kind of questions we have, if any. Does this do or die thinking apply to customer service? Should we be more assertive here? Well, I think absolutely. The people who are in customer service, project managers, have amazing opportunities to make things happen. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I was invited in by a company that was in business over 150 years, where the VP of sales said, well, we know everybody, we don't need selling. But it turned out that there were persuasive missions, like doing educations as an example. And the customer service team is in a great position to advance these. Question 2. We sign up customers to use our services, and then we bill them as they use the services. We have customers who sign up, but who never or rarely use them. What can we do? What can we apply from this discussion today? Well, I would definitely start with the relationship grid. Who are all the people who touch the decision to use our services or product? Who's the friction point? Who's not enrolled? And how could we use our big fans to enroll them? This approach seems to fly in the face of the traditional marketing approach. Find out what the person needs and provide it, and particularly wait for them to call us. It seems that we're telling people what they need with this bold vision, bold behavior. Any comments on that? Absolutely. In a way, to get the process started, it can defy the traditional marketing approach. Remember, we're trying to level a playing field where the prospect's not in search mode. Don't forget the context here. How do we apply this thinking when the prospect tells us, or the customer tells us our price is too high? You know, they say things to us like, we only deal with high quality vendors with great service, so it comes down to price. Your price is too high. Can you use this approach? Well, if we really have a value to offer and the buyer is either not understanding it or just bluffing it, yeah, the do or die approach here could be going higher in the food chain, maybe going to the CFO or the CEO or somebody who does care about value. But wait a moment, Andy, isn't that going to ruin the relationship with the buyer? Well, if you've tried everything you can and the buyer is still telling you your price is too high when it really isn't, you might have to escalate and try something different. We're relationship sellers. The business comes to us because we build relationships. I don't see how this all applies. In my thinking, it applies two ways. First, how do you build more relationships? That's number one. And number two, are we getting a square deal from the people who we think are our trusted advisor relationships? Are they giving us the right number of introductions? We don't have all the tools that you discussed, like testimonials. What should we do? Can we still apply this approach? Yeah, the do or die basis, get started. I had one client, we trained 30 engineers in an engineering firm, and they had 1 week testimonial. They all said, we can't get testimonials. You don't understand, Andy. We went to engineering school to learn how to design bridges and roads and traffic studies, not to sell. We wound up getting about 50 testimonials. We had to try. Life is too short. Is this do or die effort really warranted? My comment here is beware black swan events. Think about the guy, Bob, who worked for a company over 150 years old, who had a client for 40 years. He covered it for 10 years, and then they got tossed out without a second shot. Do you really need to wait for that to happen? Well, that's our wrap for today. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you March 11th when we talk about relationship selling and urgency. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great day. Bye now.